I'm Bill Quirk. I'm an assembly member. That means I'm in the California legislature, where we set the budget for the schools, for health and welfare programs, where we set the laws of the state in terms of public safety. And I represent Ashland, Castro Valley, Cherryland, Fairview, Hayward Acres, Hayward, San Lorenzo, Sunol, Union City, and North Fremont. I'm happy to be able to present today's Senior Scan Stopper event. I'm glad to have you join us in this very important event where we will discuss issues of particular concern to seniors like me. I'm 76. During the pandemic, our office became aware of many scams targeted to seniors in District 20. Some of these scams include unauthorized COVID-19 testing vaccine sites, phishing scams. A phishing scam is where they're asking you for your information and never answer someone on the phone who is asking for your information. If they say they're from your bank, get the number for the bank and call them directly. Chances are no bank or anyone else is going to ask you for that. You'll hear more. Charity scams. We represent the police, such and such, and we, support the men and women in blue. Anyway, I've had that one come up. So today you will hear from a panel of experts on how to avoid being a victim of fraud. And frankly, it's happened to me. Participating experts include the Alameda County District Attorney's Consumer, Environmental, and Worker Protection Division, Contractor State License Board. I've had a number of dealings with them over the years. Department of Consumer Affairs, California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, and the California Department of Insurance. Our first speaker is Gregory Bowler, an attorney with the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, Consumer, Environmental, and Worker Protection Division. Please go ahead, Mr. Bowler.
And those of us that work in consumer protection, we're trying to really use this as an opportunity to educate the public and to become even more astute on ways to prevent these scams from taking hold. I want to start by telling you just a little bit about the District Attorney's Office. You can see in my background that the Oakland Coliseum, we have actually a special white-collar crime and consumer protection division that is in an office building separate from some of our other offices. And we've got about 20 attorneys, 16 inspectors. We've got 3 forensic auditors. We've got several paralegals and other staff here and victim witness advocates. We have also a mediator that works with consumers to try to help with consumer mediation. And one of the things that Nancy O'Malley, who's your elected district attorney, my boss, feels strongly is making this office accessible to the public. We're each speaking for about, I think, 15 minutes today. So there's not enough time to go over, the majority of scams that are out there. We did develop though this workbook. It's called a Consumer Protection Workbook. You can see a nice picture of Nancy. She says hello on there. And in this workbook, which I'd like to make available to everybody who's watching today, there's a great little quiz. It's called it's Test Your Fraud IQ. And it basically goes on for several pages of some pretty interesting questions to see how strong you are at spotting fraud and preventing fraud and how to deal with it. After that, the workbook goes into different sections that talks about all the different types of fraud that are most dominant, including identity theft. And then there's resources at the end, different agencies and people that you can call, links to websites. So Dr. Quirk's office has graciously offered to provide this to everyone. So all you need to do is contact his office. If you go on his website, you can see the phone number. You can also see some of his staff in the contact us, and Rosa, who's on this call, is one person you can email if you'd like. So I'd encourage you to do that right now while I'm talking. If you want a copy of that workbook, you're welcome to it. And hopefully within the next couple of days, they can get it out to you. And what I'd like to focus on today is just a few of these scams that are really affecting so many different people. As you know, this is big business. These criminals are quite sophisticated and organized. A lot of them are outside of the area, outside of the country. I mean, this slide, for example, shows a couple of very sophisticated criminal gangs that are in the Nigeria area. You know, comes to lottery scams and sweepstakes. It's something like half of all Americans play in those arenas, and those are really dominant for scams. It's very common. What is this number you see on the screen? Well, the first number, of course, is 5 million. And that's really the number of victims of elder abuse through consumer scams per year. And then the number you see below that, of course, that number is 36.5 billion. And those are dollars. And that's the amount of money that, on average, Americans are scammed out of. You know, that's a statistic that comes from that National Council on Aging. But in focusing on this in this way, I'm doing that as a challenge to you all, because as you'll see with this next slide, the myth is that there's a certain category of people that are impacted. It's not elders per se, it can be elders, but it's people that are stupid or naive or whoever, you know, that have different vulnerabilities. But the reality is that that's not the case at all. You could be the most sophisticated person on the planet and have all the education, all the cognitive abilities in the world, have great social connections, and you can still be victim of this kind of fraud. I mean, you saw Assembly Member Quirk said he himself has been the victim. I've been the victim. When I was preparing for this slideshow, I actually got a phone call, and then I realized it was one of the types of scams that I was going to be talking about. Happened while I was actually working on the slideshow. The tool of the trade for the crooks is emotion. So basically, they're trying to create a sense of urgency. They want you to act quickly before you've had time to think about what is really going on. Fear is a tool, a very powerful emotion, of course, that is used. And basically, it's to trick you into providing your personal information, in many cases, to steal your identity and do even more damage down the line. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the FBI issued this press release in April of 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic provides criminal opportunities on a scale likely to dwarf anything seen before. The speed at which criminals are devising and executing their schemes is truly breathtaking. And that's not something I'm saying, that's the FBI speaking. There were the government check scams. And you can be assured the IRS doesn't call you. They're not going to ask for your personal information over the phone or ask for a fee. That's not something that's going to happen. This list here is other things the government's not going to do. And they're not going to ask you to verify your social security number or click on a link to verify information. Those are all big red flags. Assemblymember Quirk mentioned the COVID-related phishing schemes. Those unsolicited emails, sometimes they have an attachment, sometimes they have a malware that's attached to it that can latch onto your computer and basically start running the show and start to get your personal information. Sometimes you get an email from a human resource department asking for a proof or a vaccine card or things like that. Fake health organizations, protective measures for COVID or treatments that are not actually real. And these things look incredibly real. So the strategy is to read it very carefully for signs of phishing. You want to look for grammatical errors, misplaced or misspelled web addresses, and email domains that are altered. And as was also mentioned, phishing scams can deal with banks, credit card companies, government entities, even your utility company. And again, they're trying to create that sense of urgency. There's always going to be a problem on your account, something you've got to do, something you've got to verify, and it's got to be done soon. A lot of you will have heard about or have actually experienced the PG&E scam. You probably saw it in the news here locally in the Bay Area. And basically, this is a demand for payment in order to avoid getting your utility shut off. I mean, we have people in the Assembly District in the East Bay here who have vital need to electricity, to gas. This is their home. They're staying in their home almost all day. Some people are disabled. Some people have medical devices they're using. And basically, this type of scam is incredibly scary to many people. So obviously, PG&E is not going to, within the first hour of contacting a customer, do some type of service disconnection. That's just not the way they operate. They're not going to demand payment by some of these apps or payment processing centers, and they're not going to ask for your information over email. These are all signs that this is not PG&E that's contacting you. Zelle is one of these very popular apps for payments, like PayPal and Venmo. Many of you would know that Zelle is through Chase Bank, but many banks use Zelle. And it's very convenient. I use Zelle. But what I've come to learn with Zelle is that it has some very important vulnerabilities. And one of the things that people assume is that if you use a service that's so prominent, like a Zelle or a Venmo or a PayPal, and something bad happens, it's going to be covered. Well, actually, it's not. And many people have found that they've gotten into huge problems whenever they've been a fraud victim, and it's been part with Zelle. Because basically, it's not like your credit card company that's going to cover fraud. It's just a totally different tool. And their tool is basically just a bridge of moving the money. It doesn't have the same characteristics of using like a credit card. So if you're going to use an app like Zelle, you need to be really careful with how you use it. Romance scams is another consumer scam that's really on the rise during the pandemic. And basically, I'm going to go at a quick pace through this, but basically, there's going to be fake persons created. Some are going to have financial problems. They're going to use social engineering techniques, promises, emergencies, trying to gain your trust. And basically, at some point, there's going to be an ask for money. What's not going to happen is there's not going to be an in-person meeting. There's not going to be any real investments or return of the original money. So this, again, of course, is basically call centers. Like, there's actually full organizations of people that specialize in how to gain your trust and make it seem like you're really talking to a true person. This Amazon scam was the one that I was talking about. I got a phone call while I was preparing for this slideshow. And basically, it's saying, oh, you just bought an Apple MacBook, and if this is fraud, you need to act immediately. Well, I hung up the call, and that was that. Never saw anything else about that. It was a scam. So don't answer the phone. Literally, don't answer the phone. That's a great way to prevent this. Unless you know who's calling you, you can always call someone back. Don't click on unknown links. Don't give out your personal information. And don't pay by gift card, money transfer, credit card, or check. When you get to the point where there is someone that you're on the phone with that you shouldn't be with, just hang up. It's not rude, it's smart. And the reason is because what you're doing is you're ending the sequence, trying to get out of the queue, trying to get away from the list of the people that will be targeted again and again. And the more the deterrence that's done by smart consumers just hanging up the phone, the more likely that less people will be impacted. And basically just take this time during the period of the pandemic to, reach out to your friends, your family members, people that could be vulnerable, touch base with them, and basically try to ask them questions too about what types of things and what types of people that they're talking to, and make sure that they're not being victims as well. It's a good time for us all to check in on each other. I've listed here on the slide my direct line at the office is if anyone has any questions, if there's anything you wanted to talk about in terms of a concern with consumer protection issues or a scam. And I would encourage you again to get a copy of this workbook, the consumer protection workbook, by contacting the assembly member's office, and it can be emailed to you as a PDF. Thank you.
Hi, this is Bill Quirk again. Our second speaker is Geraldine Middleton, a special investigator with the Contract State License Board, Department of Consumer Affairs. But before we go to her, I just wanted to say I've also been targeted by one of these romantic. When I first signed up for, oh, Greg, you probably want to put yourself on mute. When I first signed up for one of these internet phone services, Skype, I got a beautiful young woman wanting to be my friend. Needless to say, there would have been an ask later on. Anyway, I'd like to again give you Geraldine Middleton, the special investigator with the Contractor State License Board. Please go ahead, Geraldine.
Thank you, Assemblymember Quirk. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm going to start sharing my screen. I hope that you can see that okay. And I'm with the Contractor State License Board. You'll probably hear me reference it as CSLB. And just know that the Contractor State License Board is tasked with protecting California consumers by licensing and regulating the state's construction industry. Currently, there are about 290,000 licensed contractors in the state of California in 45 different classifications. And by classifications, I mean things like plumbers, your roofers, HVAC installers, general contractors. So oftentimes we see scams related to construction, and they're particularly targeted to perhaps seniors for a couple of reasons. The most common one is usually because seniors tend to be trusting individuals, which sometimes can make them a little bit more vulnerable to scams or targets of unlicensed or unscrupulous contractors. Oftentimes we've seen unlicensed contractors try to establish a relationship with seniors in order to take advantage of them eventually. We've seen reports of unlicensed contractors offering to run errands for seniors or to, take them to the doctor's office, all of these things in an effort, again, to take advantage of individuals. A couple of the most common scams that we see usually is an unlicensed contractor typically will ask for a very large down payment. Just by way of information, in the state of California, your down payment in a construction project can be no more than 10% or $1,000, whichever is the lesser of those two amounts. And that's regardless of your contract price. So you can have $1 million project, that deposit still is going to be no more than $1,000 or 10% of the contract amount, whichever is less. Other common scams that you might see are door-to-door salespeople and using pressure tactics, right? You'll see an unsolicited contractor come to your door offering services that you did not ask for or that you may not need. They may offer some sort of one-time special. They have extra materials, and so they're urging you to make a decision or to purchase services that you were not intending on doing so. Sometimes we'll see pressure tactics such as them saying, listen, we're just going to come by and do a free estimate. And if we, you don't have to pay anything at all. They'll conduct the estimate or the walkthrough. And of course, they may find something that seems unscrupulous or very dangerous, electrical problems or, pending plumbing problems. And they'll say something like, oh, you need to get this done right away. Otherwise, you'll have major problems, right? That's in an effort to get you to make a decision or to provide them with monies ahead of, really quickly without having time to take a look at the real problem. So these are all common tactics or scams that we see oftentimes with unlicensed contractors. Another common trend among unlicensed contractors, and you should be aware of this with any contractor, and that's someone asking for you to agree to a verbal agreement, right? You'll often say, you know what, I work on a handshake. I come from the old school, and we just say, oh, my word is my bond. But a verbal contract does not protect you, the consumer, from any possible problems that you may have down the line. You don't have a signature, we don't have a scope of work, we don't have a contract price. At the end of the day, it might be just your word against that other individual's. So you want to make sure that you're not entering into agreements where you don't have a written contract. That written contract will protect you against any increases in total contract price, right? You'll have an idea of what the project will cost. And if there's a change that's going to happen, you should also get that in writing, right? We know that construction prices have gone up and cost of labor and materials have gone up. But if those changes are occurring in your project, make sure that you're getting that in writing and that you're getting that in writing before the work starts. Another common ask of folks is that they pay in cash. And the previous presenter had mentioned, avoiding paying in cash. Again, contractors who are asking for large cash payments, that might be a red flag for you to just kind of take your time and do your due diligence on whether or not you want to go into contract with this individual. Paying in check or with some sort of payment that can be traced allows you to have a little bit more control over that project. You can go back and trace who you made that payment to, and then you can keep a copy of that payment for your files if you need to file a complaint later on down the line. And speaking of filing complaints, so if you have, if you felt like you've been a victim of something like this, or that you've hired an unlicensed contractor and you have questions about what you can do, you can contact CSLB, where we have an investigations unit, and we will investigate your complaints against both licensed and unlicensed contractors. Our website allows you to file a complaint online, or you can contact us by phone at 800-321-2752. One important thing to remember is that you have a 4-year statute of limitation from the date of the construction to file a complaint. So if you've just recently discovered, that you may have dealt with an unlicensed contractor, or you may have had a dispute on a construction project, and you're within 4 years of the date of construction, you're still within that statute of limitation time period. One other great development that just recently also happened in I believe it's 2021, is that the right to cancel was extended from 3 days to 5 days for seniors. And that's seniors that are 65 or older. That right to cancel period is now 5 days, so that you have additional time to consider what you're entering into, to take a look at that contract, to confer with friends and family, and then to make sure that you're ready to sign that contract. Again, that helps protect you against from solicitors. And this is just a screenshot of what our website looks like if you're filing a complaint. There's an icon on our website that says file a complaint. Pretty simple process to follow. You'll input your contact information and the contractor's information, and then it'll kind of just tell you to give us a little brief explanation as to what the problem is. So we talked a little bit about what to be aware of with an unlicensed contractor. Here's a couple reasons of why you want to hire a licensed contractor instead, right? Just know that all licensed contractors in the state of California have passed both a trade and law exam, and they've undergone a thorough background check, meaning we know who these individuals are and they've met the minimum qualifications for the state of California to be licensed, right? In addition to that, licensed contractors are required to hold a $15,000 contractor's bond, and they're required to have a workers' compensation policy if they have employees. Those also are protections against possible injury of an employee on your property site. And also the $15,000 contractor bond will protect if there's an issue with the quality of work, or if this contractor abandons your project, there's a reserve available to be able to meet that financial injury when it occurs. Again, the workers' compensation requirement for licensed contractors helps protect you as a homeowner against any possible injuries of workers while they're working on your property. And you should also make sure that if you're hiring a contractor, that they show you proof of that coverage if they have employees. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, when you're hiring a licensed contractor, it does provide you with greater consumer protections. CSLB oftentimes will get involved if once a complaint is filed to help negotiate or mediate and even arbitrate cases with a licensed contractor. And those services are free to consumers. There's no charge for the consumer or for the contractor for CSLB to investigate a complaint. Again, these are options that are available only if you're contracting with a licensed contractor. And just as a quick reminder for homeowners that the law actually requires that any construction project over $500 requires a licensed contractor. And that's $500 both labor and materials. So it's the combination of both of those things that have to, if they exceed $500, require a license. So we often get, oftentimes get a question on how do I find a qualified contractor? Well, what we suggest is, speaking to friends and family, talk to those who've actually hired contractors, who've had dealings with contractors, and ask them what their experience has been, right? Making sure that they, actually are capable of doing this work and that they've done the work at the standard that you're requesting. But even more so, when you get those recommendations, check the license. On our website, there's a tool that says Find My Licensed Contractor, and it allows you to check to see if that individual is actually licensed, if their license is in current active status, and if they have a workers' comp policy. You can also find out if there's been any disciplinary action against those licensed on our website. And if you can't visit our website, again, you can reach us by phone. And this is a sample of what it looks like on our website to find that information. It's called Find My Licensed Contractor. And you can also find licensed contractors on our website using a search tool. You can either enter your city and the type of contractor that you're looking for. So example, what city you're in, a plumber or electrician, or you can enter your zip code and that'll give you a list of licensed contractors in your area. Other ways to protect yourself if you're going into construction is getting at least 3 bids and making sure that those bids are in writing. That allows you to compare, what's the industry standard for the type of work that I'm doing? What's the asking price? What's a typical time for completion of this project? And then when you're talking to that contractor, ask them for their references and then check them. Give them a call and ask them if you can come by and see their work so that you have a better idea of what you can expect from this contractor. In addition to that, you can ask the contractor to show you their pocket license. Every contractor is issued a wall license and a copy of a pocket license, right? That information, it will include the license number, the type of company it is, the name of the company, the classifications, meaning are they actually licensed in the type of project that you're hiring them for? You want to make sure that they're appropriately licensed. And is that license active? The expiration will be on that pocket license. Contractors usually have to get their license renewed every 2 years. So you should see a current pocket license if you're speaking to a contractor and you're asking them to show you one. Again, remember, while you're getting those bids, talk to your contractors about their employees. It's really important. It's very important that if this contractor intends on using employees, that they have a workers' compensation policy for those employees. Otherwise, they should be hiring other licensed subcontractors to do that work if they're not if they don't have coverage. And again, this is your opportunity to shop around. Don't feel pressure to make a decision and let the contractor know I'm getting multiple bids and I want to make sure that I'm making the best and most informed decision before I decide to hire someone. Just another reminder that the estimate that you get or the bid that you get is not a contract. Your contract should include a lot of information about what you can expect during this project. What's the total price? What's the estimated completion time for this project? Who are the employees who are the subcontractors that you're hiring? All of that information will be included in a contract versus an estimate. Another thing to look out for is If this is not the contractor directly who's selling you this, this construction project, then that person is called a salesperson, a home improvement salesperson. And the home improvement salesperson, they themselves have to be registered as well. So if they're coming to your home and you're negotiating a contract and they're not the contractor on record, they need to be registered, and you need to be asking them to further registration if they haven't provided you with that. Another thing that you may often see with a lot of contractors now is electronic contracts. Just be cautious and know that these contracts can be edited after you sign them. So ask to get a written copy of your contract and make sure it's signed by you and the contractor before any work is performed. And that's the law. The state of California requires that you be given a written contract and it be signed prior to the start of work. That written contract will also include your progress payment. So you'll have an idea of when your payments will be due. The contractor will say, listen, at the point of framing or painting or completion of electrical work, we'll expect a payment of X number of dollars. That's predictability, that's transparency, and that allows you to know that you're not paying ahead of schedule, right? You don't want to get to the point where, you know, construction work may have just been at the 10% mark, but you've already paid 50 or 60% of that contract price. So that payment schedule that's included in your written contract will help protect you against that. Again, your written contract will include information like who's the subcontractor, who are the material suppliers. And all of these individuals are important to know because they may have mechanic lien rights against your property if they perform services or provided a service or materials for your project. Again, your contract will include start and completion dates. And if there are any changes to the original scope of your contract, make sure that that's also given to you in writing, that you sign it before the work gets started. And just a point of interest right now, we get a lot of complaints. We've been getting a lot of complaints regarding solar panel installation. Know that CSLB has a specific solar task force that deals with solar complaints, and they're very well versed in the types of problems that may occur with solar installation. The one thing that I do want to mention is, and remind folks of, that solar panels and the installation of solar panels, it's not free. So if there's a contractor promising that you won't pay anything at the end of the installation, or you won't pay anything to get these installed, that's a huge red flag. Generally, you know, obviously there's a cost to getting solar panels, and you'll see a savings, but it's not a free program in any sense or any stretch of the imagination. Some of these programs associated with solar panel installation are programs like PACE or HERO. These energy efficient programs, folks should be very cautious of, because sometimes they come with high interest rates and they're tied to your property taxes. So be very aware, do your due diligence, and be aware that anytime you see these types of programs, that it may require you to do a little bit of more research and educating yourself before you sign those types of contracts. Again, another way, just as a reminder, protecting yourself in a construction project generally starts and deals with the money. So you're wanting to make sure that you're in control over the payments. That 10% down at the beginning, I'm sorry, the 10% or $1,000 at the beginning down payment is a way that you're in control of your payments. Making sure that you know your payment schedule so that you're not paying ahead of work is a way that you're in control of your payments. If you've paid 50% of your contract price, you could expect to have 50% of the work completed. You should never be that far in advance with your payments than the work that's actually been performed. And again, reminder, just get everything in writing. You want to be able to have proof of what your contract says and that what you've paid. So get those things in writing, especially if you have financing include, make sure that that information is provided to you and the disclosure information is available to you in writing. And again, just a reminder, read your contract, right? This is a legally binding document. So make sure that you're aware of all of the terms within your contract. And I'm probably going to say it for one more last time, which is your down payment. Folks, make sure that you're not paying really large deposits or down payments at the beginning of your contract. If you have a contractor who's asking you for 50% upfront, that's a red flag. The law says that you should only be paying 10% or $1,000, whichever is the lesser of those amounts. And again, don't let your payments get ahead of the work. That's the end of my presentation. I hope that you found the information helpful. And if, again, this is our contact information. If you have any questions, please feel free to call us at our call center. We'd be more than happy to help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Middleton. Really appreciate your insights here. And I've committed some of these sins. I had a very expensive repair where I didn't get 3 estimates. And the engineering department at my city told me I paid too much. Oh, well. So our next speaker, our third speaker is Katie Carisco. And if I said that last name wrong, please correct. An outreach specialist with the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, which I believe is a new department now.
We
Please
are.
go
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Yes, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Assemblyman Quirk, for inviting me to speak to you today about fraud prevention and to share some important updates about my department. I'm going to give you a quick overview of my department just because a lot of people haven't heard of us, and that's fine. And then get into a few common scams and then also how to protect yourself. Now, if the department name does not sound familiar to you, you are not alone. We've had a few changes, but we were formerly the Department of Business Oversight, and before that, we were the Department of Corporations, who merged with the Department of Financial Institutions, but we've been around over 100 years. We just have a new name. I like to think of us as the state's financial services regulator. Although we may have a new name, we still really do take consumer safety as most important, especially when it comes to fraud, and especially those most vulnerable populations like seniors, students, military, and even new Californians. Let's see. Okay, so what is DFPI's role? We're here to enforce California finance laws and regulations by licensing literally hundreds of thousands of financial services, some of which we've already heard, and I'll get into that a little bit, and the products and also the professionals who are selling them. Our employees actually go out and conduct, they call them exams, but they're essentially audits, to make sure providers are following the law, and our enforcement team can investigate suspected fraud and scams. They get to go undercover, which is pretty neat, and they also take legal action. So here's a shot of some entities that we do regulate. There was recently a law passed called the Consumer Financial Protection Law, and that really expanded our reach, adding various types of financial products and services. So before, we licensed state chartered banks, credit unions, investment advisors, money transmitters. So when we heard them talk about Zelle, Apple Pay, PayPal, anytime you're sending or receiving money, we regulate all of those. Venmo, securities issuers, broker dealers, mortgage lenders, so many, basically anyone selling a financial product. And as you can see here on the right, we have a list of, we're now regulating debt collectors and credit repair agencies, rent-to-own contractors, student loans, and so many more. You can definitely see a full list or do a search on our website, and that's our website right there. And it's really easy to navigate that. And I apologize, these are a little bit blurry, but I wanted to share a shot of our 2 most popular consumer publications. We write these all in-house, and with seniors and military being the most targeted groups for financial fraud and scams, we have fraud prevention and financial education programs dedicated to those groups on our website. And you can order these for yourself or for your group, free of charge, of course. And we even started a new consumer newsletter called the Consumer Connection, and that's a really fun way to learn more about our licensees, fraud prevention, new scams that are out there. And I'll put that link into the chat in a minute, just so you can subscribe to that if you want to. It's fun, and I promise we won't clog your inbox, and I actually get to write some of these, so it's really fun. And then, of course, here's our contact information. I'll add this at the end as well. But if you have a person or an issue with a salesperson or a product, or you're just not sure of something, give us a call. That's why we're here. We're here for you. We're here to protect you. We want to be proactive about it, hopefully before you become a victim. We have a toll-free number here, that 866 number, where someone actually, we have a live call center where somebody actually answers the phone, and we can talk to you in just about any language you can think of. So please give us a call. You can even check if they're in good standings or have any enforcement actions against them, and that's pretty neat too. So the first type of fraud I want to talk to you about is called affinity fraud. And this is probably what we see most at our department when it comes to complaints or issues with seniors and fraud. It's an investment scheme that targets groups based on some sort of similarity. It could be race, religion, age, even social groups like Rotary Club or Toastmasters, anything. A scammer comes in and they befriend the group, usually someone with some sort of authority, and they gain their trust and convince them to invest their money into something very special and unique. And it's usually some sort of real estate we're noticing. But then it works like a Ponzi scheme where they take investors' money and to pay new investors, and then the money always runs out. And there's usually little or no product to even begin with. And I think the best way of trying to explain this scam is just telling you some examples that we have. And some of these are open litigation cases, so I can't give you names or details, but I can give you the gist so you can understand. We see a lot of buying, flipping, and selling houses, real estate cases. There's groups currently, 6 months ago in Orange County, who told investors that because they already lived in the area, they were given a deal and a special opportunity to invest in a real estate group. The problem is that the seller put all of the money in his own name and not the investors, and then took off. There's another example. A company started selling bogus Medi-Cal products to Filipino seniors. And then because they had hundreds of seniors contacts at their fingertips, they preyed on them by trying to sell shares of a resort condo on some stretch of beach in the Caribbean. The problem is the resort did not even exist. Another example, and this is actually a photo taken of the place I'm going to tell you about. Right before the pandemic hit, we shut down a investment fraud scheme that allegedly collected $30 million from illegal land sales and other charges associated, again, with some resort-style living community, literally in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And this scam, again, targeted Filipino, Chinese, and Spanish-speaking communities with high-pressure sales tactics, false promises, of course. More than 2,000 investors were persuaded to pay up to $30,000 each for a parcel of land. Nothing was ever developed. It's just heartbreaking, and the list really goes on and on. The problem is, like we just heard, there's a 4-year statute on limitations on securities and investment frauds as well, and it takes a really long time to investigate and to build a case and bring forward criminal charges. You know, we can continue to work on restitution, for investors, but unfortunately, the money is usually long gone, or even somebody's life savings. That's why it's so important for us to get out there as much as we can beforehand and let you know scams that we see and tell you to please contact us before you sign anything. It's so important. Don't wait. We're here. That's why we're here. So let's talk about what we can do to try and outsmart scammers. Number one, try and limit personal information. Let's face it, so much of our personal information is online. We hear about large companies being hacked like Experian, Marriott, what was it, Target a couple years ago. And unfortunately, those we really can't control. But we can control how much we put out there on, say, social media accounts. Remember that social media is real time, which can be great, but it also can leave us open to some sorts of scams. Like when you go on a vacation, maybe you're really excited and you want to post on Facebook to tell all your friends you're going to Hawaii or something. But who knows, a friend of a friend on Facebook could actually see that, and they could be a bad person and rob your house while you're gone. So we just really want to be careful. You always want to make sure that you set your accounts to private. You're probably not an Instagram influencer or a business, so don't add information details to your profile. You don't need to do that. You know, like on Facebook, try and be careful who you add to be your friend. I only have people that I know that I've met in person. So be really careful. Also, like we heard about those hackers at what I just talked about on websites, when you're completing a transaction online and asked, do you want to save this information for future use? Say no. It sounds so easy and convenient, but please say no. There's really no need to store it on their server. It just opens you up to so much more fraud, potential fraud there. So we just heard a little bit about phishing, but I'm gonna show you some examples as well. I'm sure everyone has heard this term. When someone tries to digitally pose as someone else or some other entity, but it's always on the intent of either stealing personal information, or of course, it always boils down to money. You could get them through emails, text messages. I get those all the time. They can appear to be from your financial institution, some sort of big box store, internet provider, literally anything. So I'm going to show you, here's a screenshot of an email. So again, just look for things that don't really look right. If you look at the red box at the top, Bank of America, and then you see their actual address at comcast.net. Well, that's strange. Wouldn't it be bankofamerica.com? It's not addressed to anyone in particular. Dear member, if there was a problem with your account, you think they would actually at least use your name. Some of the spelling looks funny. Things just don't look right. That's probably a dead giveaway. And what you can do is actually hover your mouse on any link or the sender's name. You don't have to click on it, but if you just hover your mouse on the link where it says in the circle, please sign into your account, and then it gives you a link. If you just hover your mouse on it, on the right, it pops up with an actual link. And that's just a bunch of gobbledygook, and it makes absolutely no sense. So make sure if you do online banking, which a lot of people do, and that's great, when it asks you to sign into your account, you want to make sure it always takes you back to that main page on their website where you type in your username and password. Be really careful because they obviously use real logos and they look so legitimate, but they're not. And sometimes it's hard to know the difference. Here's another example. This is a screenshot from my phone from Wells Fargo. I bank with Wells Fargo, so it wouldn't be odd for them to send me a text message. The problem is, again, there's things that just don't look grammatically correct. Also, I look at from, well, that's not the right address. And they want you, of course, to click on a link. And so I did, just to see what it would do. And it sent me to this page that looked completely legitimate with Wells Fargo's logo, everything. But then they started asking me questions about my mother's maiden name and my social security. And I thought, okay, this is kind of weird. So remember, if you do online banking, that's terrific. But if they want you to click on a link, make sure it always takes you back to that page that you're used to going there and typing in your username and a password. So I'm going to talk to you about two-step verification. It has a lot of different names, sometimes multi-factor authentication. And I think this is one of the most important tools that I want you to take away with today. And here's how it works. When signing into an account, you'll use your password as usual. But then there's one more step that you have to take before you can receive access to your account. So you'll have to provide another code sent to you either by text or email, or even they'll call you and give you a code. This way, no one else can log in somewhere remotely without it being you. It's available on just about anything you do online, all Google products, Apple products, eBay, all email platforms, social media, cable, cell service provider, literally anything you do online. So just to give you a better example, say that I'm about to complete my order, I'm in the cart on Amazon.com, okay? Before I can check out, they have to send me a code via text message. And I have to enter that code before I can proceed and check out. So that way, a scammer wouldn't be sitting there in who knows what country. They don't have access to my cell phone, where I would get the code. I highly recommend this. It could potentially stop an incredible amount of fraud and identity theft. And I wish more people would use it. I even have it on my work computer. So every single day, I know it's a drag. I have to sit there and type in my password, and then they send a code to a different email or my cell phone. So I have to type that in every day just so they know that it's really me. Oh, and you know what? I wanted to give you a quick update also on phishing. I did a little bit of research, and it seems like there's a lot of fake charities associated through phishing. They've been emerging with the Ukraine issue right now. The number one problem that they see is false charity websites seeking donations for victims, con artists pretending to be Ukrainians in need of help, whether that's money or goods. Also emails from Ukrainian businessmen trying to move money out of the country. So be really wary of those. You always want to do your research and make sure that they're actually who they say they are. Passwords, we all know to use a strong password. You really want to make sure that it's unique, and don't use the same password for every site, but consider using a passphrase. So maybe instead, say you have a cat named Bingo, instead of just using Bingo's name with maybe a symbol, try like my black and white cat named Bingo is cute, something like that, something that only you would really know. You can also use an encrypted password manager app. Depending on what phone you have, you can search for those in your app store. But I think more than anything, just a reminder to always trust your instincts. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You are your best advocate for potential fraud and scams. So always slow down. You never want to make a quick decision. And verify, call us, really call us. Make a complaint if you're having an issue with one of our licensees. And if you contact us and we don't regulate that specific person or product or company, we can get you to the right agency. and hopefully expedite it for you. So please give us a call. Thank you so much, and stay safe physically and financially. And here's my email address. If you have any questions, please email me directly. Thank you so much.
Well, this is Bill Quirk again, and thanks very much to all of our presenters. Thank you, Katie. And our fourth and final speaker is Mary Beth Lykowski, who is an outreach analyst with the California Department of Insurance. Please go ahead, Ms. Lykowski.
Here, in full disclosure, I too am a senior, and I have made the same mistakes with contractors. And thank you, seniors, for sharing your afternoon with us. Today, I'll start with a brief overview of the Department of Insurance, discuss common insurance scams, and then close with resources available to you from the department. The California Department of Insurance, also known as CDI, is a state agency, and we regulate the insurance marketplace. We regulate all lines of insurance, including homeowners, auto, life, health, among others. We also regulate the insurance companies, the agents, and brokers that sell insurance. All of CD's functions, including overseeing insurer solvency, licensing agents and brokers, conducting market conduct reviews, resolving consumer complaints, and investigating and prosecuting insurance fraud, are to protect consumers. As a consumer, if you ever have a problem with your insurance company, agent, or broker, call us for help. First, I'd like to reflect on what our department has accomplished for California's consumers last year. Our Community Relations and Outreach Branch has hosted 275 events, and we reached over 166,000 consumers. The rate regulations and legal branches, they helped return over $3 billion to consumers due to their reduced driving and business activity during this pandemic. And the consumer services team, they helped more than 40,000 consumers and recovered over $134 million in insurance benefits. Reports indicate seniors are the largest population targeted for scams. Why are seniors such big targets? Because it's estimated that seniors hold 69% of US wealth. You may have money accumulated in your homes, life insurance, retirement savings, and there's somebody out there waiting to steal your piece of your hard-earned savings. Fortunately, as you've heard today, there are a number of protection programs for you. Let's talk quickly about 4 things you should be aware of when it comes to COVID-19 scams. The scammers are out there preying on COVID-19 fears by offering COVID-19 tests or cures in exchange for your personal information. However, these services are unapproved or illegitimate. They're using the phone calls, text messages, social media, and door-to-door visits to steal your information. Scammers use the personal information they collect to fraudulently bill federal healthcare programs or commit medical identity theft. If Medi-Cal or Medicare denies the claim, then you could be held responsible for the cost. COVID-19 fraud is rapidly evolving, so be cautious of unsolicited requests for personal information, especially those Medicare and Medi-Cal account numbers. And as you were told earlier, do not open emails from unknown individuals with hyperlinks and text. Ignore offers or ads for testing or treatment on social media. Where should you get your medical information from? From your doctor. If you suspect fraud, take action and report it immediately to the Office of Inspector General online at oig.hha.gov, or you can call 800-447-8477. Now, one of the most popular senior scams involving insurance is an annuity. That's because Californians spend an average of $20 billion on annuities. That's a tempting payday for con artists. An annuity is a contract between you and the insurance company. You buy it by making one or more premium payments, and they in return make income payments to you for a fixed period of time in the future. It's often used as an investment vehicle for retirement income. It's sold by licensed insurance agents, usually with a financial background, and growth in annuities are tax deferred. So annuities are great for some, but lousy for others. And that's usually because of the 7-year surrender charge. There's a big penalty for you to take your money out if you need it, even in case of an emergency. But agents love to sell it because of the big upfront commissions. If your agent calls you, if they get you into one annuity and then 12 or 18 months later calls and says they found a better annuity for you and you need to switch now, be wary. What could that mean for you? You may be hit with a penalty for early withdrawal. You might even have a tax implication on top of it. Bottom line is it's another upfront commission for the agent. But if you have a financial advisor whom you have been working with for years and they know your financial goals, your financial picture, your risk tolerance, and they suggest to add in one to your portfolio, if they explain the type and the pros and the cons and that it makes sense for you, then it may be a nice fit for you. But don't make that decision to buy an annuity right away. Sleep on it, talk it over with a family member or someone you trust. If it's a good deal today, it'll still be there tomorrow as well. Other common insurance scams include premium theft and staged auto accidents. Premium theft occurs when you buy an insurance policy from an agent or broker and they never actually buy, place, or bind the policy with the insurance company. And now you're thinking to yourself, how can that happen? You have receipts, you have a copy of the policy, you get statements. Well, some scam agents, whether they are currently licensed or not, they will go to great lengths to steal. Let me share one of the latest arrests we have from an agent from San Clemente. Robert Stoddard was arrested after our investigators found he allegedly stole $1.2 million from more than 20 victims, including 14 seniors. He was charged with 51 felony counts of grand theft, elder abuse, money laundering, security violations, aggravated white-collar crime enhancements. For 6 years, he conducted investment and retirement-related seminars that targeted senior citizens and used various schemes to fraudulently gain victims' trust and cultivate friendships in order to steal their money. He led victims to believe he obtained bonuses from insurance companies that he could apply to their existing life policies and annuity contracts if they paid their premiums directly to him rather than to the insurance company. He then failed to place the annuity in life insurance policies. He forged insurance statements, emails, and letters, which led these victims to believe the information he relayed to them was true. Thank goodness he's been taken into custody, and we're hoping that some of these victims will get their money back. Now, staged auto accident fraud, believe it or not, that still occurs. If you get into an accident and something just doesn't feel right, call the police and report it to your insurance company. I'm talking about when you have that gut feeling. Let's say you're driving down the street you're familiar with that usually isn't too busy. All of a sudden, the car in front of you stops and there is a car next to you. You're boxed in, so you rear end the car in front. You pull over, the car that was next to you disappeared, but the car you rear-ended pulls over and the driver gets out holding his neck. Another passenger gets out with a back problem. And it just doesn't seem right. So 2 different potential fraud schemes could occur here. The driver says he's going to do you a favor by not reporting this to your insurance company, and he has a way he can settle it. He'll follow you to the bank so you can settle it with cash. Red alert, don't fall for this. Or the passengers all claim bodily injury for a minor fender bender, and they file claims against your insurance company. Now you may think, well, that doesn't hurt me. The insurance company is paying. That's what I have insurance for. But your insurance rates will go up because of the bodily injury claim. This is just one example of a staged auto accident. There are several versions. Again, if your gut tells you something isn't right, take a deep breath. Don't feel rushed and make any decisions at the accident site. Do not admit fault. Do not tell anybody about your insurance coverage limits. You do have to exchange your insurance carrier information, but nothing more. Call the police and call your insurance company. Okay, so what are some insurance scam warning signs? Well, we all know the saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. The agent offers free seminars in sites like assisted living centers, retirement communities, places of worship, or nice restaurants in exchange for a free meal. We all get those mailers all the time. The agent offers to create or update a living trust in order to see your financial information. They are trying to find new clients that can potentially be worth a lot more money to them than the free living trust that they are offering. They want your financial information, and it is up to you to guard it. And by the way, this is exactly how Agent Stoddard was able to steal $1.2 million from his clients. Seniors have more rights when it comes to insurance, and it is called the Senior Insurance Bill of Rights, and the full list can be found on our website. One senior right is that you may review a policy of life, annuity, long-term care, or Medicare supplement for 30 days after you receive the policy in order to decide whether you wish to keep it. If you decide you do not want the policy, you can return it for a full refund. What can you do to avoid becoming a victim of insurance fraud? Check the status of the insurance company and agent on our website and make sure they are in good standing. Always answer all questions thoroughly and truthfully. False statements or omissions can cancel the policy. Do not leave any blank spaces on an application. Dishonest agents can fill in blanks without your approval. Get everything in writing and compare policies. Don't pay with cash. Make checks payable to the insurance company or agency business name and not in the agent's name. And don't buy coverage you can't afford, and only buy the coverage that you need. Most important, ask questions. What does the policy cover? What is not covered? What is the cost? And what is the payment schedule? If I cancel, are there any surrender charges? Is it suitable for me in my current situation and with my plans? Never feel pressured or intimidated, because agents know they should never use high-pressure sales tactics. And consider having a trusted person with you. And last, never sign anything you do not understand. So what can you do to protect yourself? Do not engage. Do not worry about being polite. Be stingy with your personal information. Change your passwords on a regular basis. And like you've heard before, hang up the phone. Do not take unsolicited advice. And next slide. Report fraud. If you suspect fraud, call someone. Here are 3 organizations to call. And the last is a website where you can learn more about current insurance scams. Next up are some resources just for seniors. Senior Gateway is a one-stop website intended to provide seniors, their families, and caregivers with the information they need to connect to helpful services and resources to find answers and solve problems. This includes information on topics such as avoiding and reporting abuse and neglect, preventing fraud, financial abuse, and common scams, healthcare information, and senior bill of rights. Visit seniors.insurance.ca.gov. We also have information guides specifically for seniors, annuities, what seniors need to know, informing seniors, driving for seniors. All of our guides are free and available in PDF form on our website. And I can also send some brochures to the Assembly member's office to be distributed. If you have any questions about your current insurance policy, new policy, or you have been denied coverage, claim, or canceled, please call our customer hotline. It's 800-927-4357. We have experts that can assist you in several different languages. We will never ask you for your immigration status, or you can visit our website at insurance.ca.gov. And that's it. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope that you leave here today remembering knowledge is power and you are ready to protect yourself.
Hi, this is Bill Quirk again. Thank you very much to our panel of experts for all the information you gave us. Mary Beth, Greg, Katie, Geraldine, We really appreciate your taking the time to be with us today. If you have follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to my office. I'll give you the number twice here. It's 510-583-8818. That's 510-583-8818. And thank you all very much again. And thank you very much to my staff and to the DCO staff for the assembly for helping us put this together today. Best of luck to everyone. So long.